I guess that I want to just try and encourage every single one of us. And I think that if you are new to church today, or if church is not typically what you do, hopefully this message will be inspirational to you. But equally so, if church is what you do week in, week out, I know how easy it is to sometimes feel like you're just losing your way in terms of your relationship with God. And today I want to help put us all on track to make sure we all know what to do if we ever find ourselves in a season where we're feeling like we're just going off track. I'm pretty sure that for those of you that maybe once a year or once every other year ever get to take a trip away, I'm pretty certain that going on holiday might be a highlight in your life. I know it is for me, right? It's like I love being able to take a week out of the busyness and the craziness of life and to just recuperate and enjoy time with my wife and the kids. Like, it's just a fun time. A couple of years ago, we took a holiday to Egypt. We'd never been to Egypt before, and we were so pumped when we arrived at this resort. We were so excited because it was just advertised that there was loads of pools, and it was right near the beach, and the hotel looked great. And we arrived at this resort, and as we got off onto this foyer area of the resort, I was immediately greeted by a guy who introduced himself to me as Egyptian John. And Egyptian John explained to me that during our stay, that he had been personally assigned to just making sure that everything was good in our world. And I was so grateful for Egyptian John. So like every day when we would bump into one another, whether it's around the pool or whatever, he'd always say to me, "Hey, Mr. Luke, is everything good?" And I'm like, "Egyptian John, life is tremendous. Thank you so much." A couple of days into the holiday though, our hotel room, it was getting stiflingly hot. I mean, like something had gone wrong with the air conditioner. I have no clue what that was about, but it was boiling hot. So I went and found Egyptian John early one morning and I said, "Egyptian John, we have a problem." And he's like, What's the problem?" I'm like, "Look, the air conditioner must be broken. It's empty, or the air conditioner's ran out. The room is too hot." And he was looking at me all confused. And I said, "Look, can you fix the air conditioner?" And he was like, Mr. Luke, I fix. You go enjoy your day and I fix." So we left our hotel room, and then literally we returned later on that evening where we walked into a boiling hot hotel room. Like nothing had been fixed at all. And Emma's going, "Man, this is just too hot in here." And I'm like, "This is crazy. Let me go and find Egyptian John." So I went over the resort and I found John and I was like, "John, there's still a problem." And he's like, Mr. Luke, I fix. I'm like, "No, John, the air conditioner is still broken. It's still empty. It's run out. I don't know, but the room is way too hot." And he's looking me up and down like, huh? All confused. And at that point, he grabbed me by the hand, which I'm not going to lie, that was a little weird. But we walked over the resort hand in hand, where he marched me back to my hotel room. And all the way, he was adamant, Mr. Luke, I fix. And I'm like, "You fix? It's broken, John. This thing is busted. It's not working at all." And then together, hand in hand, we walked into my hotel room, where he marched me into the bathroom of my hotel room. And he kept on saying, "Mr. Luke, see, I fix. And what he was pointing at was this very image right here. It was the sink in our bathroom, and this is what he was pointing towards, where he had placed for me 13 bottles of hair conditioner. I said, "John, if there's one thing I don't need in my life, it's hair conditioner. It's the air conditioner that is broken, not the hair conditioner." And after a while, we had a laugh and a joke about it, and I realized that things were going from bad to worse. Everything was going horribly wrong. But it's not just me that might have a terrible holiday story to be able to recount. I mean, many of you, and maybe we're very similar in this, maybe there's been a time in your working career or your day-to-day life where you felt, "Man, this is getting really tough." I can remember I've had many of these being a pastor. I remember the very first time that we were leading church and we'd only just planted, and man, we were experiencing incredible growth. I mean, honestly, we were a pretty big deal. We had about 15 people in the church at the time, and we decided at the end of church that we were going to pray for everybody. So, again, I'm thinking to myself, I'm new at this, I've got to earn my stripes in this, and I wanted to be a big faith preacher. So I just told the entire room, I was like, look, if you've got a need in your life, you can come to the front and we're going to lay hands on you, and we're going to pray for you, and we're going to believe that God is going to change your world. And one guy came forward and he was like, I want you to pray for my hearing. So I was like, okay, church, we're going to pray for this man's hearing, okay? And we're going to have big faith. And I was so expectant. And I told the entire church, the same God that raised Jesus from the grave is the same God that's here with each and every one of us today. And he's still a miracle working God today. As I proceeded to ask everybody in the room to just close their eyes and bow their heads, as I laid my hands on his ears. And I was so expectant that God was going to do a miracle. I mean, I believed with all of my heart that God was able to restore unto him his hearing. Now, I'm not going to lie. Have you ever done this? Maybe like you've been praying with a friend, or maybe you've been praying with somebody in a life group scenario, and you're a little bit apprehensive and you're a little bit nervous, and even though you've told the whole room to bow their heads and close their eyes, you're the one that's praying. So what you do is you close both your eyes, and then you open one just to kind of see how it's really going in the room. And as I opened one of my eyes, I could see this big guy just stood there, eyes wide open. And I was sensing there was some sort of a problem. And I thought maybe I just needed to demonstrate more faith. So I just started to do what every pastor does when he's unsure of what to do. He just starts speaking louder. So at that point, I decided to start shouting, in the name of Jesus, restore this man's hearing to him. And the guy was still there, eyes wide open, glaring at me. If I gone off, hey, I'm back on. Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? Okay. I just got bored of my own voice, so I just took a break for a moment. So the reality of it is, I saw this guy, and he's still staring at me, just eyes wide open. So I leant in and I said, what's the problem? And he goes, Pastor, it's not my hearing I want you to pray for. I'm in court on Tuesday. Will you pray for my hearing? I was like, oh, right, okay, yeah. Okay, you don't want to be sent to prison, so you've come to church today. Okay, I see the motive there. So I know what it's like to feel like my life as a pastor is going horribly wrong. And many of you know what that's like too, because maybe you've not been a pastor, but you know what it's like to experience a time or a season where it seems to you like your life is going horribly wrong, whether it's the holiday, whether it's your job, whether it's what's going on in your relationship. Every single one of us has had a season in our life where it feels to us like things are just running out of control, things are spiraling in a direction that we don't want them to be heading into, and life is just getting hard. It's abrasive, it's grinding on us, and it feels like there's just no way forward. And some of you today, you know of what this tension feels like. Because for some of you financially, maybe all of your hopes and dreams that you were expecting, now you know they're not going to materialize, and you've run out of time and you can't correct the path that you're on. You know what it's like with that feeling when life gets hard. For others of you, it's professionally. Like you had dreams of becoming a doctor, but the reality of it is that's never going to happen for you. And professionally, it feels like life has gotten hard. For others of you, it's because you're dealing with a health thing. Like maybe you've received a diagnosis, maybe it's difficult, it's complex, but something's been going on in your world, and for you, it feels right now like life has gotten hard. And when life feels like it's getting hard, it feels like there's just no way forward. Have you ever had a season in your life where it feels to you as though there's just no light at the end of the tunnel, and you're stuck in a tunnel, and now you're like, I don't know what my next steps should be? But when life gets hard, we're all very similar in this one thing. Most of us have a habit whereby we get incredibly angry. And when we get angry, we take it out on those that we love the most. In fact, we get angry towards God. We get angry about church. We say, man, this is crazy. I don't even know why I'm doing in this. Why should I keep coming here? Why should I keep serving here? And when life gets hard, the temptation for each and every one of us is simply that we run away from God rather than run to him. Or maybe if you don't get angry, maybe you do what I'm tempted to do. You start to live a life of just aggressive comparison. You know, where you start to look at everybody else's life on social media and you watch their highlight reel and you wonder, why do they get all the good stuff? Like, why is it that their family is so 2.4 perfect? Why do they get the horse? Why do they get the trip? Why do they get the new kitchen? And then you zoom in and you see, and they got the gold-colored handles that you wanted in your dream kitchen, but it's never going to happen for you. And you live life comparing yourself, and it makes you feel like, I'm not against them having good stuff, but the problem is that you don't have it, and that becomes the major issue. And it feels like life's getting hard the more you start to compare what you don't have against what they seemingly have. And this makes us all feel like nothing good can come from this. And if there's one thing that I know as a pastor now of over 10 years, it's when life gets aggressively hard that you and I feel like quitting the most. It's when life really starts to get tough that you and I not only feel like walking out on the relationship, walking out on the career, but it's at that point that we start to think and feel, maybe I should even quit on God, because this doesn't make any sense at all. And the irony of the matter is that when your friends go through something that's hard, you know this to be true for you. You're in their ear saying, it's okay, God's got this. You can have full faith that God knows everything that's going on in your life. Don't be afraid, don't be fearful. But when you experience a time or a season when your life is hard, then it's not, God's got your back. It's like, God, where are you? Do you even care? Do you even know what I'm going through? Do you even know what I'm dealing with? And the irony creates this huge tension. So I guess my question is today is, what are we supposed to do when it feels to us like life is getting hard? What do we do when it feels to us when life is going incredibly wrong? What do we do when it feels that as Jesus followers, things are happening to us and towards us that we would never choose or dream of? What are we supposed to do in those seasons of our life? I want us together to go to the scriptures today, and I want us to look in Luke's gospel, Luke chapter 5, because in this scripture, there is a story about one individual that in many respects is just like us. We're going to jump into the narrative that describes a time and a season where this one man experiences hardship like he's never known before. We're going to jump in at a time and a season where his life is at the brink of collapse. The prognosis is not good. His life overnight, all of a sudden, has become incredibly hard. It's going incredibly wrong. And I want us to look at, well, what did he do? Because all of Scripture is there for a reason. Every single line of text, which is God-breathed, is there so that we can jump into their life story and ask, what can I learn from them? So I want us to look at what happened in Luke chapter 5. In one of the villages, Jesus met a man with an advanced case of leprosy. When the man saw Jesus, he bowed with his face to the ground, begging to be healed. Lord, he said, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said. Be healed, and instantly the leprosy disappeared. I want us to just think about this story. And I want to use a little bit of preacher's license because there isn't, in fact, all the details about this man's life that I personally would like to know about him. But I just want you to understand that what we do know is that this man was a real man. Like, the history books will tell us that this was a real occurrence. And if he was a real man, it means that he was a real person that had a real life. So what we can assume, and we don't know for sure, but we can assume that the life he had, it might not have looked too dissimilar to yours and mine. I mean, perhaps, we don't know for sure, but perhaps he had a real job. Maybe he had a real family. Maybe he had a real wife. Maybe he had children. Maybe he had parents. Maybe he had a bit of a social thing going on. Maybe he had real hopes, dreams, and plans for the future, because a real man would have real things like that going on in his world. And yet one day, what the story tells us is that his world changed completely. Like his world in a moment came crashing down. We don't know exactly how it happened, but perhaps one day he got up and was getting ready and getting dressed to go out to work, when at that point he's washing his face in the morning before he looks in the mirror, and then shock and horror sets in. As he's looking into the mirror, he can see that around the frames of his eyes there are these small but rapidly, aggressively growing white spots around his eyes. Maybe at that point he just has difficulty catching his breath. Maybe he gasps for air. We don't know the details, but what we do know is that he thinks now for the first time ever that this disease of leprosy has just struck his world. And man, maybe he ran downstairs to his wife, maybe with tears now in his eyes. He gets near to her and he begs and pleads to his wife, "Honey, babe, please tell me that you can't see these white spots around my eyes." And at that point, her silence says everything, before the silence is rudely interrupted by a gasp and a scream, perhaps as she falls to her knees in shock and horror, as she starts to cry and wail aggressively loudly, because she can see the spots, and now she can see exactly what's in store for this man and their family and their future together. Because now at this point, as the man is perhaps stood there in front of his wife, he's starting to think about everything that he was taught as a child. Maybe he's starting to think about how, as a child, he would even play the games where they would throw the stones at the leper and they would run away. Maybe he's thinking about all the teachings that he's heard about leprosy, about it was a disease that would defile you, that you would be unclean. And now the shock and the horror resides in his heart, because now the disease has landed on his doorstep. This was the day where everything in his life became hard. This was the day when everything in his life became difficult. And the thing is about leprosy as a disease is that it would be the disease that would damage all of your nerve endings to the point at which you wouldn't really be able to feel where you would be hurting yourself. And that was the problem. It's why people that struggled with the disease of leprosy would look like that they were in such a mess, because the ends of their fingertips would sometimes be damaged. You'd catch them in a door and they would fall off and they wouldn't even feel them. And then there'd be blood and pus and it would just be oozing with all kinds of fluid. And then they'd damage their toes and their noses and their ears, and all of the parameters of their body would be so badly damaged, it caused this immense amount of just disfiguration. And the truth is, it kind of had the same sentiment about it that maybe AIDS has today, or at least it certainly did a few years back. And as this man is now stood there, in front of his wife perhaps, he now starts to think that I'm never again going to have the opportunity to kiss my wife goodnight. Now in this moment, he's thinking, I'm never again going to be able to hug my own children. I'm never going to be able to shake hands with my dad. I'm never going to be able to embrace my mom. And as for his job, you can kiss that goodbye as well. The reality of it is that he knew what was on his way. And the difficulty that made his life feel like it was all going so wrong, the thing that made his life so incredibly hard now, was not just the physical pain that he knew was about to come his way, but also he would have had this massively troubled mind element as well. And that really was exasperated because the rabbis, who were the local religious leaders on the day, who would teach and lead the community, they would teach that people that suffered with leprosy, well, they were suffering with such because it was a punishment, something that they'd done, and God was dealing with them. So now not only would he have been thinking, man, I have all of this physical stuff that I've got to deal with, but now he's going, God, what did I do? Where did I go wrong, God? Like, this is my punishment for something that I did. And now can you just sense the guilt and the shame that this man is now carrying? He would have been aware that the rabbis would teach in Leviticus chapter 13. They would say that anyone with such a defiling disease ought to live alone and shout out that they are unclean, because there were rules for people that had this disease. The rules were that they would have to cover their face. The rules were that whenever they were out in public, that they would have to shout at the top of their voice, I'm unclean, I'm unclean, so that everybody else would know to stay away from them. They knew that everybody that suffered with this disease would have been banished to the leper colonies that were on the outskirts of the city gates, where they would have to live in community with each other at the hope that somebody would one day drop a food parcel down to them. They were the rules. The other rules were they had to stay at least 6 feet away from everybody else. Children would be taught. You ever hear that sound? I'm unclean. You run away with it, run away from it as fast as you possibly can. You get away from them. You don't go near them. I mean, nobody wanted to be around this guy. I mean, talk about a bad day. This guy's life has just been turned upside down. This was the day that his life started to go horribly wrong, and yet, on his worst day, he makes a decision that I would like us at Lighthouse today to learn from. Because on his worst day, when everything's going wrong, when everything's going hard, this guy decides to run towards Jesus. He doesn't run away from him, but instead he looks at Jesus and he sees him in the crowd, and he decides, if anyone can do anything good with me in my state and placement of life, then maybe it's Jesus, because he's heard the stories, he's heard the rumors, he's heard the whispers that maybe Jesus is the one, because he knows he's been going around from town to town and village to village, and where Jesus goes, miracles happen. Where Jesus goes, good things happen. So he decides on this day, his worst day, he's going to run towards Jesus. And I want to put to you today that on your worst day, it's the very thing that I want us to do as a church family as well. But what I also want you to see is, not only did this guy break all the rules, but Jesus broke all of the rules too. I mean, the reality of it is that Jesus, when this man was approaching him, what he should have done was called in the boys, the henchmen, the security guys, the bouncers, to keep him away from him. Why? Because that's what every other religious leader would have done in the day. But Jesus didn't. Jesus broke all the rules too. It wasn't just the man with leprosy that denied the 6-foot rule, but Jesus broke the rules as well. And Jesus allowed this man to stand in close proximity. The scriptures tell us that he said, Lord, if you are willing, you can heal me and make me clean. And here's the part that I think that we struggle with sometimes. Notice how he doesn't go to Jesus with the question of, can he? Like, he believes that Jesus can do good stuff. He believes that Jesus can make a huge difference in his life. He believes that Jesus can be the game changer. He just doesn't know whether willing. He just doesn't know whether Jesus would be willing to be the point of difference for him. He does not know that. And I think that that's the statement that we can all relate to. Because you know the day that you feel like your life is getting hard? You know the day when you feel like everything in your life is going wrong? We know that Jesus can do good stuff, but the real question that we wrestle with is he willing to jump in the middle of my mess with me today? And I think sometimes with scripture, we can read these stories and think about them, well, It's 2,000 years ago, it's leprosy. That's not even a big deal for us today. We were able to resolve that years ago. We can read stories like this and think, you know what? Like, I don't know how this relates and connects to me today because I don't have that disease, and neither is Jesus walking from village to village. But actually, what I do think is there's so much in this story that makes me convinced that we are oftentimes just like this man. Because in many ways, we're so incredibly similar. This guy, he was desperate for something to change. Many of us know what it's like to feel as though we're desperate for something to change. Maybe it's in your family situation. Maybe it's with your spouse. Like you guys have just been at it, fighting forever and a day, and it feels to you like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You're desperate for things to change. For others, maybe you're desperate for something to change in your family unit with your children. It feels like everything's got so aggressively turbulent and abrasive. You're like, man, I just need something to change. This guy's similar because he knows what it was like to go through tragedy and feel like this isn't fair. And some of you know what that feels like too. Like you've lost a loved one. Maybe you've received a diagnosis. Maybe you've had bad news. Maybe you got a divorce. You know what it's like to go through tragedy with something that feels to you like it's just breaking your heart. We're just the same. This guy was lonely. Many of us know what it's like to be lonely. You can be the biggest character at the biggest party and feel like all you are desperate for in your life is just one friend. We're just like this guy. This guy, he knew exactly what it was like to feel guilt and shame. Like there's one thing to be given a disease or to be inflicted with a disease, but it's another thing now to have to wrestle in your mind and ask the question, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do? What sin did I commit that brought this upon me? And when we think about that, it kind of makes us just want to curl up and die, give in, because we start to feel like, well, if God's brought this pain to me, God could never again be proud of me. We're just the same as this guy. He had zero hope for the future. And for some of you, for some of us, we can have times and seasons in our life where it feels like we've got zero hope for the future. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. You know, one of the biggest things, and I think that maybe we're similar to this guy, is that we all keep score. And one of the biggest problems for us all in establishing whether or not God would be willing to get involved in our life is because you keep score about you. You know what you did last weekend. You know what websites you were on last night. You know what happened at the office party. You know about how you spoke to him and how you spoke to her. You keep score, and the more you keep score, you consider that when your life gets hard, there's no way that God would ever want to get involved with you. But this guy somehow on his worst day was able to get past all of that, and he didn't decide to run away from God, which, let's be honest, that's what we're naturally wired to do, but instead he decided to run towards God. Luke 5 verse 13, it tells us what happened when he ran to Jesus. It says that then Jesus reached out and instantly the leprosy disappeared. I mean, the truth is that more people would not have been shocked by the fact that this man was healed. They would have been shocked at the fact that the rabbi was allowing somebody to break the 6-foot rule. They would have been horrified that Jesus was willing to get in such close proximity of him. And it tells us that not only did he speak words to him, but it also tells us that he touched him. And sometimes we've got to ask the question, why did Jesus touch him? It was almost, I think, that in that moment where they embraced one another, in that moment where they both broke all the rules, in that moment where this guy is experiencing his worst day ever, in that moment, Jesus was trying to convey this idea to him and say, I am willing to jump right into the middle of your mess, no matter how broken, no matter how messed up you might feel, with disfiguration all over your body, with all of society rejecting you. I am still willing to jump right into the middle of your mess on the very worst day. And it's almost as like, to me, that Jesus's physical touch healed, Jesus's words, they healed his body, but Jesus's physical touch healed his soul. And I just go, man, I'm so grateful that that's the kind of God that we serve. That's the kind of God that we promote, that we talk about here at Life Church, at Lighthouse Church. It's the kind of God whereby on your day where you think God would want nothing to do with you, that's the day he's like, man, I am everything about you today in this moment. You know, before Emma and I planted Liverpool One Church, I was in the police, and I don't know how well that's going to land with everybody in the room today. At every single location, some of you have already checked out saying right now, I ain't listening to him, he's a cop. But you know, for 11 years, I was in the police. The thing about being in the police is that you get to see some pretty messed up stuff. Like, it makes you grow up very, very quickly. I can remember this one particular day whereby I was working on a response call, which basically means that when somebody dials 999 for us, that you are going to that. And often you have no clue what you're actually going into. I can remember this one day that the radio started to chatter. And in the police, you always know the severity of the job or the incident that you're about to attend because of the way in which the radio starts to get very serious and very busy almost instantaneously as you're trying to figure out, like, where is everybody at? What's happening? What do I need to do? What do they need to do? There's so many different variables all going off at one significant time. And I was waiting at the top of a road for a stolen vehicle that was imminently heading our way. And literally, as the radio starts to get busy and the pursuit car that was behind this stolen vehicle is giving commentary about where the car is at, I'm at the top of a hill looking down on one of the busiest junctions in our area, where literally right before me, this stolen vehicle goes through this major junction driving on the wrong side of the road, where in the middle of this junction, it plows into and collides with multiple other vehicles. And it was like a scene out of a war movie. You're trying to figure out, like, okay, where do we go first? So I immediately went into the middle of this junction. And right now in that moment, you're just stopping everybody from moving. Like, it was just carnage, pandemonium. There are people screaming, people crying. People are getting out of cars. People are trying to get away out of their cars. And then literally in this moment, as I'm trying to survey what on earth has gone on, I see in the corner of the pavement, curled up in a bush, what looked like a person. I go running straight down into this hedgerow. And in this bush, there is this young, beautiful girl, and her body was in a shape and a place and a way that your body is not designed to go in. And I'm thinking, like, there is nothing I can do here. This girl is dead, and I can do nothing. And just as I'm about to leave her, because there's going to have to be somebody else to help, right? I could hear this rustling of noise of somebody else in the bush. And I get on my hands and knees and I go climbing into this hedgerow. And there is this boy. He's about 17, 18 years of age. Exposed. There is blood pumping out, and I'm thinking, is he dead too? And then all of a sudden, I hear this noise, and it goes like this. So I get on my hands, on my knees, and I'm trying to put my hand in his leg to stop him bleeding out. And all I can hear him doing is, and I am covered in blood. And all I can hear him doing is, and then he starts to speak. Just don't leave me. just don't leave me. And I grab this boy by the head and I pick him up close to me. Blood everywhere. And I don't know whether he's about to die. He doesn't know whether he's about to die. And I grab him and I pull him close. And I say, mate, I am not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying with you. I tell you that story because I went home that night and I was thinking about this story. And I thought to myself, is that not exactly what Jesus was trying to convey to us through this Luke 5 narrative? Is that not exactly the same principle that God of the universe was trying to make us, his followers, know and aware of today? That you can get broken and messed up and disfigured, and no matter who you are or what you do or what you've done or what you're addicted to or the secret sin issue that you've got going in your life, that he is not going anywhere. Like there's nothing that you can do, scripture tells us, that would cause you today to be separated from God, so long as you live life in an open and authentic way before him. And I just wonder, is that not what Jesus would want you and I today at Lighthouse, to walk out of church at every location knowing that no matter who you are or the story of your life or the context and the narrative of everything that's happened in your world, on your worst day when you feel like you need to run away from God, he welcomes you home and he says, come to me broken, come to me disfigured, come to me messed up, come to me divorced, come to me with the thing going on with your children, come to me with the worries about the job, come to me when you're fighting in the business, come to me when you've got all of these tensions and struggles that make you feel like your life is going wrong and your life is getting hard. He says, that's the day that I want you instead not to run away from me. That's the day that I invite you and call you a son and a daughter and say, we get to do life together. This is the kind of God that we serve, Lighthouse. This is who he is. So in closing today, I just simply want to put two thoughts in your mind. And then I want us to pray, because maybe you are the follower of Jesus today. Maybe you are the person that's in church right now and you've come in. And the truth is you got up this morning and you didn't even want to come here. Maybe you're serving on a team and you're thinking, what's the point? Because God doesn't know what I'm going through. Maybe nobody knows what you're going through. Maybe you've been juggling something that's a secret to everybody and you've no idea what to do with it. But you're at the point today where you're like, I quit. I'm out. I don't want to stay in the game anymore. I don't want to follow Jesus anymore. This is too hard. This is too tough. It feels like he's the distant kind of God. Well, I want to say today, it's not who he is. He's the kind of God that breaks all the rules so that you can come close. And I want to pray for every single one of you that you would experience the love, the presence, the peace of Jesus coming close in your life today. And then secondly, I want to pray for those of you that maybe are in church at every single one of our locations. And as I've been talking, you've been sat there thinking, this is so great for somebody else, but it's not for me. Jesus would never want anything to do with me. And you've never made a decision to invite Christ to become the Lord and Savior of your life. You want to. It's kind of like the guy, he knew that Jesus was able to, he just didn't know whether Jesus was willing to get involved in his mess. And there's a part of you that wants to. But even now, you're double thinking yourself and you're thinking, this is what I want, but I don't think that Jesus would really want to have anything to do with me. Any idea he knows what websites I look at? Any idea what I do on a weekend to just drink myself out of the emotional state that I don't want to be in? Any idea what I do with the substance abuse to just take the edge off? Well, today's going to be your day where you say, you know what? I don't know everything that maybe I might need to know, but right now I believe in this. I believe that he's been willing to invite me close, and I'm going to say a prayer for you too.